except that, of course, nothing's normal. So thank you all for attending. This is helpful. I'm hoping this won't take too long. I think that, especially since we have 3 new members, 2 of whom are on today, it might help to introduce ourselves and, short, like 1 or 2 minutes. And then we can, go into the bigger picture of how how remote meeting is gonna change our DRB hearings starting Monday. So hi Joe, hi RJ. I've been communicating with you separately, but I'm Meredith. I'm the zoning administrator. I am available for questions whenever you need it. I'll be providing staff reports. Anytime the DRB has something that they, any special project for some reason that they want to work on, or questions about how the regulations work or the underlying statutes, I'm your go-to person. My office is in the basement of City Hall. And if things were normal, then there would be people here 5 days a week for any time you had questions. But right now it's mostly just me. Kate, you want to go next?
Sure, I will. Thank you. It's nice to see everybody and to meet those of you who I maybe haven't seen before, at least in the DRB context. So welcome. Thank you for signing up and jumping right in these times. And thanks to everyone else who's hanging on and sticking with it. It's really great. I'm very grateful for that, especially since my schedule is also adjusted. I'm going to stand up again. So my name is Kate Mccarthy. I've been on the DRB for, I think, 7 years, starting as an alternate for a couple of years, and then moving into a more regular position, and then just a couple months ago into the chair position. So I do this because I enjoy living in Montpelier. I enjoy the sense of community that comes from the way we build in Montpelier and the way that the land is put together. And so I'm really just interested in being a part of the body that tries to implement the bylaws in the fairest and most consistent way possible to accomplish that. So considering that I do this for fun, it's a little nerdy, but I think we're kind of all in that boat of caring about the way that things are really done. My day job is as a land use planner, and I do that at the Vermont Natural Resources Council. I've been there for about 8.5 years. And I work on sustainable communities, smart growth, transportation planning, preventing sprawl. So I live in Montpelier. I've been here for just over 8 years as well, and have 2 kids and a spouse, and live off of North Street. So that's just a little bit about me.
Kevin, you want to go?
And shall I?
Go ahead, Kate.
Oh, yes, Kevin. Do you want to go next?
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Kevin O'Connell. I've been a member of the DRB in various forms since its inception in 2002. I'm a long-term resident of Montpelier. Most of my career has been involved with policy in state government as a policy and fiscal analyst for many years, and recently retired just a few months ago, and not really retired. Now involved in running a consulting business with my wife, and finding that to be a real challenge, particularly now. But I've always enjoyed my involvement with city government, in that it keeps my finger on the pulse of what's going on, but it's also a way for me to I feel like I'm paying back some of the good things I get from being here in Montpelier. It's a great place, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
There we go.
I also have years ago, I have training as a landscape architect, and rediscovering some of the joys of doing that. And I guess that's enough, unless somebody has some questions as to what I am about.
Well, thank you, Kevin. It's good to acquaint and reacquaint in this process. We haven't really sat down and chatted like this together as a
We
group in a
never
long
have.
time. So
That's right. Not in the
you.
7 years that you've been a member, Kate.
Well, now you know. Now I've shown all my cards.
Yep.
All right. So RJ.
Hey everybody, my name is RJ. I just moved to town from Middlebury. I lived in Middlebury for about 10 years and was doing a long distance thing with my now fiance, poly major, and we decided that Montpelier was the place we wanted to live. So I moved here at the end of February. Quit my job at the end of February. Then the world blew up, and I'm currently here. Want to get involved in city stuff because I was involved in Middlebury, and it's a great way to get to know folks. I am gainfully employed in some ways, shapes, and forms. I am the business development director for WheelPad, which is a home attachment that is for folks who have need to have universal accessibility into their home. So it can make any building a universally accessible bedroom. Put a universally accessible bedroom and bathroom into any building. And they're based down in Wilmington, Vermont. And so that's sort of like one half of my employment, part-time there. I'm also working on starting a business to help folks build accessory dwelling units. So, a lot of that is part of the zoning and building process, which I've only been a little bit connected with. So I'm just hoping to learn about the process and, learn about the regulations and meet folks in town, be on a board.
Sounds great. Thank you, RJ. I'm just going in order of the tiles on my computer. So Rob is next.
I'm muted. Oh, there we go. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, perfect. All right, so yeah, my name is Rob Goodwin. Lived in Montpelier, moved a few years ago, bought a house about a year ago. I work for a small land surveying and wastewater permitting company based out of Heinsberg. We do work all over northern and western Vermont. And part of that work, we do work with a lot of the other development review boards all around the state, which is a sort of interesting. We live in the state of Vermont where every town is a little different, and I guess that's a good thing. I grew up right across Lake Champlain in the Adirondacks, and got a degree in surveying from the University of Maine. Spent 7 or 8 years down in West Virginia working for advocacy groups on the impacts of coal mining, large scale strip mining, and then moved back to Vermont, and I've been surveying and doing wastewater stuff ever since. So that's me.
Great. Thank you, Rob. And next on my list here is Claire. Would you like to go next, Claire?
Hello. Kate,
hello.
Congratulations on your new edition, and you are a very brave woman in juggling. Being a chair today was fun, so I think that's wonderful.
Thank you all for bearing with me. I appreciate it.
I did the one thing that I said that I would never do again, was to start the laundry at the same time that I was on a Zoom meeting, because the floor vibrates, and so I don't know if you can see that, but there's a very subtle vibration happening in my house because the laundry is below me. So apologize for that.
Never would have known. It's just
Good.
fine. Common tasking.
So I have been serving on the DRB as a alternate. And I work as a land use planner in Montpelier. I work at the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission. I have also served as a zoning administrator for another town, and so I've had some experience kind of working on the other side of the DRB. And I just find that it's a great way to serve a local community by volunteering, and I recognize that part of what makes our local government work is for volunteers to participate. So I feel that sense of service to be a member on the DRB, and also like to be in touch with seeing how regulations are applied. As a planner, we're often looking at kind of the intent of what happens on the landscape, and here's an opportunity to actually see how that actually works in the regulatory realm and working with applicants. So I appreciate kind of having that opportunity to kind of have this other additional experience to kind of complement my professional work. I am a resident of Montpelier. I live on Savin Street, and I've lived in Montpelier for over 10 years. And like many of you, I am working from home and juggling homeschooling 2 young children at the same time. And so that's all fun and exciting. And that's, I guess, all I have to share right now.
That's great. Thank you, Claire. Next up on my list is Joe. Welcome, Joe. I'd like to introduce yourself. Do you prefer Joe or Joseph?
Joe is fine. Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Great.
Nice to meet you guys. Sorry, I had some computer issues, but I'm on a different computer now. I think it's working. So I moved to Montpelier about 5.5 years ago. I grew up in the Boston area. I live here with my wife. We bought a house on Bailey Avenue. I work for the state in the Agency of Transportation. I got a civil engineering degree from Lehigh University, then moved up here, worked heavy construction for a little while for Cortland Construction, installing like utilities and things like that. Then I worked for an environmental consultant for a year, but I didn't really like that. So now I've kind of settled on doing roadway design with the state. I ran for city council a few years ago, and ever since I lost that, I've kind of been trying to find a way to still participate in the community government, and this seemed like a good way to do it. I heard that the DRB needed some new members, and so I decided to apply, and here I am. Looking forward to it.
Great. Well, I appreciate that interest and service, and it's great to have the engineering perspective. And as we go through, I'm really noticing quite a diversity of perspectives that I think is going to make this a really nice, cohesive, and a complementary group. So thank you. Thanks, Joe. Roger, you're the next tile in my display and the next person on the list. So if you'd be willing to introduce yourself.
Sure. My video keeps cutting out. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I may not be with you for long. This is just not working too well. In any case, my wife and I came to Montpelier in 1977. I made my career at the Community College of Vermont and Norwich University. I retired in 2004, and I still teach at the community college. I was on the DRB from 2002, first as an alternate until I think.
Oh. We lost you, Roger.
It does seem that we've lost Roger. Maybe in anticipation of him returning and finishing his introduction, I'll just remark on two things that may be obvious but are worth mentioning. You see ORCA Media is here. We record all meetings of the Development Review Board, and they're a great resource for people who want to participate or who want to keep track of things remotely. So we always have our meetings recorded, video and voice. And then we have minutes taken by the other name you see displayed, that's Tammy, who takes our sometimes long meetings and turns them into minutes that are useful for jogging the memory, that get everything summarized in a concise and helpful way. And frankly, I don't know how she does it. So we may never see her, but we very much appreciate her work pulling together our records. So thank you, Tammy, for being here today and for what you help us do. So then, Meredith, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
and your background, if you care to share.
Yeah, I can share my background. So I grew up in the area, and really until through high school, went away, came back to Vermont, and ended up going to Vermont Law School. So I have a dual degree, both my JD and a Master of Studies in Environmental Law. When I graduated, there was no work for young newbie environmental lawyers in Vermont, but we really didn't want to leave the state. So I ended up doing work, doing mostly out-of-state corporate transactional government contract and HR law for about 6 years, with some local land permit work thrown in because my boss had a side venture where he liked to do land development over in Addison and Chittenden counties. So sort of burned out on that, took a few years off, raising my little ones. And then 2 years ago, almost to the day, I started this job, which I happen to love. I actually get to, deal with people one-on-one and help people get porches on their house, but also get to use my environmental law knowledge and do research and work on big projects as well. So, and I get to spend my time with all of you. So it's been a really good fit, and it can be a crazy job, but I happen to love it.
I just want to say, Meredith, your work is very appreciated, and you do it with such a great sense of humor. It's really a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you, Kevin. All right.
Thanks, Meredith. Before we go on, if Roger wants to finish up anything that he was saying now that he appears to be back. Any other parts of your introduction that you want to wrap up, Roger?
I'm worried about my connection here. I just keep switching out. I don't know what to do about that.
Roger, so I sent you an email. If you want to check that, you can just call in on the phone. If you want to just call in on the phone and just do audio right now, you won't get quite as much of the benefit, but then you'd still be able to participate. Okay,
I better do that because I'm losing it again. It's
Okay.
I don't know what's going on, but I'll do that, and I'll call in on the phone.
Okay, perfect.
That's fine. That's why we're doing a test run. Yes, just try, experiment,
Right.
and later on, I don't know if Meredith has availability, but if maybe you could do a one-on-one if there's anything you want to noodle around with or practice in anticipation of our next hearing.
Now, we're going to be meeting on Monday, right? Regular meeting time?
Yep, Monday.
That's a good segue.
Yep.
And so technically for that meeting, people could be in council chambers. I will be there. If it's just Roger and me in there, just one DRB member, he could probably bring a computer in, a laptop in, and sign into the DRB meeting from there, where he might have better internet service.
So the council chambers is an option now.
The council, yeah. We're trying not to have people in there if at all possible. This is sort of like if you absolutely have to. I think, for DRB members who don't have reliable internet, it might be a have to, as long as we don't have too many people in there.
Right. But in an instance where most of us seem to be doing okay, we're okay to stay at our home office.
That's our preference.
Okay.
And all the applicants are, as far as I know, all of the applicants will be, oh, he's calling my phone. Hold on one second.
All right. Well, that's why we call it a dress rehearsal, I guess. It's worth trying it all out. Meredith is going to brief us on some of the procedures, including how the public will participate in the upcoming hearing that we hold remotely like this. I think that in general, we're just going to do our best, where it's a high priority to make sure that people have their due process rights and access, so that everything we do in reviewing the application is sound and allows the applicant to get the answers that they need, and as well as the fair review of their application and fair participation by anyone who is interested. So that's what we're going to talk about next. I don't know if there's anything that we want to, can folks hear me all right?
You're coming through fine.
Okay, super, thanks. The little green box wasn't doing what I expected it to. But anyway, especially newer members or anyone at all, do you have any questions about just how this board works? I mean, I can tell you in a basic way that before our meetings, we get a packet, and I find that it usually, depending on the complexity of the applications, it can take between like 1 and 3 hours to review those packets. And I find myself caught less flat-footed when I've reviewed them well before the meeting, so that if I need to get in touch with staff for a clarification on a point from the staff report, I have the opportunity to do that. Yeah, do people just generally have questions about how we operate? Okay. Meredith's going to go over how we're going to operate at our upcoming meeting. Meredith, I was just kind of filling time while we waited for your return with some general stuff about the DRB.
Yeah, I actually had to turn my volume all the way off, so I don't know much of what you said because otherwise Roger couldn't hear me. So Roger's going to be calling in via phone.
Great.
So I don't want to dig too deep in. So you were talking about packets. I'm assuming you were just saying generally packets.
Very generally.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was sharing how much time it takes me to prepare. I also mentioned that come Monday, we're going to have some procedures that you're sharing with us. And our main goal is to make sure that participation is assured and make sure that due process is adhered to, so that we have a successful review of the application and that doesn't slow people down.
Yep. So I am going to share my screen and pull up, I think probably the best thing right now, and I'm bummed that Roger's not going to be able to see this, but maybe he can go review the ORCA video afterwards, is show you. So it's going to make it harder for you all to see each other right now when we're in this share screen mode. You're going to have a little, column over on the side where, hold on, let me rename Roger. He just came on. Roger, you there?
I am back, yes.
Okay, great. So unfortunately, I am doing a share screen, which you're not going to be able to benefit from right now. But after we're done with this, you should, this is being recorded via the Zoom, and ORCA's recording it. So you should be able to then review the video to look at any screenshots or anything that I'm showing about how to get access to the agenda at the end of the week after I've shared the staff reports, and so you can review the applications. And I'll also include instructions in my email when I notify everybody that the agenda and meeting packets are available. So for any of you who haven't been looking at the city website lately, we have on the city website, there's this agendas and minutes page. So you can get there by hovering over how do I and just clicking on agendas and minutes. That's the quickest way to do it. And then you can scroll down to meeting. So here's today's meeting. You click on that, and the agenda is going to pop up with how to access the meeting. Call in if you need to. This is just your basic agenda. Okay. If this were an agenda where they also had additional files, which is what you'll have for Monday, you go to this agenda items and files tab. You click on that, and if there's a full packet, you're going to see that agenda again here, but with hyperlinks in it to go to all the applicable applications. So I'm going to go to last week's design review committee, or 2 weeks ago, so you can see what that looks like. So here is the May 4th Design Review Committee agenda. And there's hyperlinks to the applications and the minutes. You can also just click at the top, download packet. If you download the packet, it is everything, the agenda, each application, and the meeting minutes in order in a single PDF file. This
Hey,
is,
Meredith, could I interrupt you for a second?
of course.
Are you showing the PDF of the agenda on your screen right now?
Nope, I'm showing you where the download packet link is.
Okay, good. Then I'm not missing anything. I just wanted to make sure that I was seeing what you wanted me to see.
Yep, no,
So-
so if I do that, it opens up a new, it's gonna take a while, but it opens up a new internet window.
So
Luckily,
to
small.
be, Meredith, to be clear, the packets will be available electronically, not paper.
Correct.
Okay,
There's just there's not a good way to get these packets to you in a contactless way.
yeah, that's fine. I
No,
just
no,
wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page and, weren't waiting till, Saturday afternoon to run by the police station and pick it up, so.
Nope, none of that anymore. We're not, it's all part of it's also just staffing.
Yep,
Um,
understood.
For anybody who, I think I shared it with everybody, but we're down to less than 50% staffing in the department. I am
Ouch.
pretty much the only one that comes into the office right now, so I'm doing anything Audra would normally do in person here, plus all of my stuff. So this is what the packet's gonna look like. So for the design review committee, on the 4th, it was 82 pages, so it's everything. And then if at some point, if you decide you want to take a early look at an application, we also now have this pending applications for public hearings link. So you can go there and it has individual application packets. This might not, this isn't going to be the full packet of what you would look at for the hearing, because this isn't going to have staff reports or any last minute attachments that come in. But if for some reason you're hearing talk on the street and you want to look at something, you can look at it here. Just a reminder for new DRB members, don't talk about any of this stuff with anybody. Don't talk about it with other DRB members. Don't talk about it to people on the street. If for some reason some sort of conversation happens and you hear something, you can disclose it at the beginning of a DRB hearing. Just because you've had that ex parte discussion doesn't mean that you have to recuse yourself from the hearing. You just want to disclose it. Sorry, I sort of jumped around a little.
That's okay.
I'm getting dizzy.
That's all right, Meredith. I'm glad you mentioned that. If people want to read more about what ex parte communication is and our policy for it, that should be in the materials that you would have received upon joining the DRB. So you can learn more about that. But the rule of thumb is just don't talk about it. We don't want to bias the hearing or inadvertently collect evidence outside of a hearing.
Yeah. So that's the guidance binder that the new members all picked up. There's stuff in there about ex parte communications. There's stuff about what your role is as a DRB member. That is not necessarily to make policy, but it's to make decisions on permit applications that are in front of you in keeping with what the regulations say. Okay, hold on one second. Let me look at my list. So normally, so I'm going to take a step back, DRB meeting, remote meeting. Normally, if we were doing this in person, we would all, sit in the round, we'd be able to talk to each other. And at the beginning of every hearing, normally the chair would have all the DRB members introduce themselves. And normally in our situation, it's from my right. And so we go all the way around the round. In this situation with the remote meeting, I'm almost thinking, Kate, that it might make more sense for you to just introduce each person. I don't know. I mean, and people raise their hands as they're being introduced. I mean, your names are all going to be on your windows or your phone, your links, but what do you think, Kate, on that one? Because we haven't discussed that particular issue.
That seems cleanest to me. Are others fine with being introduced that way?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Okay, that's how we'll do it.
So that's easy. Chair introduce, and members raise hands. And one of the other procedural items is that normally when we vote on a matter, we'd call a vote, people would raise their hands for, ayes. And I know, Kate, you and I were discussing about maybe just having a roll call vote and individually unmuting people so that they can say what their vote is. But I'm also, for something like approving the agenda or meeting minutes, do you still want to go through that process for those matters? I mean, it's going to make the hearing longer to do that individually versus just being able to raise hands as long as, we can see everybody.
Could we just type it into the chat?
No.
The problem with chat is, we can, hold on one second. Let me chat to everyone. So hello. So I am not sure. Whoever, is there actually a person on from ORCA? Can you see the chat? I don't know if there's somebody actually there.
They might just be letting it run.
Yeah. So,
I don't feel comfortable with the chat being a part of the public record. It feels informal to me. And the only two items we need to approve that are likely to be unanimous are the agenda and the minutes. And I don't think that will add a significant amount of time to the proceedings. At the beginning of the roll call, everyone can unmute themselves and just be ready to go. And we can practice that right now if you want to get a feel for it.
Yeah, that's the other problem with chat is that using chat, people who are on the phone calling in aren't going to see that. Which is another reason to not necessarily raise hands. I think, Kate, you're right on that one, because then people who are listening in won't be able to hear what the vote is.
Okay.
So
let's plan on doing roll call even for the itty bitty things, even if it's going to be a little more time consuming. I'd like to err on the side of a little more process rather than less, just to make sure we're being careful.
I think that makes sense. If we get into, doing this 3 months down the road, we might be able to streamline it a little bit. But I would agree, Kate, that starting off on the conservative side makes best sense.
Yep. No, thank you. Sometimes just talking it out with people helps me resolve my questions. So there's that. The place to use chat really is if you have a technical question. If you're suddenly having a question about how to do something in Zoom, then you can probably chat with either myself or Mike Miller, who's going to be the moderator. We're going to have two staffers at every meeting, even if we have to have somebody other than Mike sub in, so that one staffer, typically me, is going to handle the normal staffer duties, which is answering questions about the regulations, presenting the application, being there to walk through the staff report, whereas the other staffer will be there to handle the Zoom, muting and unmuting people, bringing people in if a new participant shows up, and keeping track of which participants want to talk about which applications. So you should be able to chat with Mike if you have a question like that. If for some reason chat's not working and you have a question either about that, or if you have something you want to say, whether it's a comment or a question for an applicant, I think what we're going to want to be doing is just going back to elementary school and raising our hands, because to avoid talking over each other and making the record really unclear, I think we're going to need to, and usually have people have people muted, even DRB members, when they aren't talking. That also helps avoid conflict from background noise. Those of us who have kids or spouses or animals at home, we all know that the unexpected can be expected. So I think we're gonna all have to get used to just muting ourselves when we're not specifically talking and trying to wait until Kate recognizes you or one of the staffers goes, oh, hey, Kate, so-and-so has a question, when everything's dead. And the other thing for everybody to get used to, but Kate and Kevin especially, is that when we do have people who are on the phone and calling in so we can't see them or have otherwise shut down their video, when we get to the end of the public comment discussion for any application, there's probably going to be a point where we unmute everybody or unmute at least those people who are on phone and do a final, does anybody else have any questions? To make sure we give everybody the opportunity to comment on applications, whether they have originally said that they wanted to comment on an application or not. There's also going to be, oh, sorry, confusing it with something else. Okay, so that's that. Feel free to jump in, Kate, if you have something you want to talk about. I'm trying to go through my list to make sure I've got everything.
I don't, but if people have questions, this is a good interlude to ask them.
Yes, Meredith, this is Roger. My Zoom is works sometimes and doesn't work sometimes. So before Monday's meeting, would you give me those telephone numbers again? Or if they're different, if they're not different, I'll just use the same ones, but.
Yeah, there'll be different different login information for every meeting.
Okay.
But I will give you a call because what I'm considering is, if you're comfortable with it, having you attend Monday's hearing by bringing, I'm assuming you have a laptop?
I do, yeah.
By bringing your laptop to city council chambers. You know, you and I can be socially distant in there, and you can log into the city's Wi-Fi. I will be on a laptop from city council chambers that's hardwired into the internet, so we won't be interfering with each other, and we'll be on almost opposite sides of the room. You and I would be, as far as I know, you and I would be the only people in there, and if somebody from the public came, they would be in the general audience section, and just come into the Zoom meeting by using the conference phone at the conference table, so you would still be able to be 6 feet away from them or more. So I think we could manage it, and I have not had anybody contact me and say that they need to be attending in person. So I think that might be the safest option, and then that way you have the video and can look at the presentation from the applicants, because especially for DRB members, I think it's really, really important to have that video capability.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll talk so that we can coordinate as to, you know, when you're going to show up, and I can make sure to let you in the building, because generally City Hall is locked at this point.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Perfect. Sounds good.
Okay. For everybody who's on tonight, can you raise your hands if you think you're gonna be attending on Monday? So it's 7 o'clock hearing. Okay, cool. A reminder for alternates that if we have a full house, you know, if we have more than 7 members attending, alternates can still participate in the hearing. They can still ask questions, but their votes won't count unless needed because somebody had to recuse themselves. But yes, Claire.
Yes. So I kind of was like, do I put my hand up? Because I guess it's great now we have kind of a full board, and so my participation isn't kind of necessary, or as Meredith explained, kind of with the voting procedures. So if you have a full board, then I may say I'm not going to attend. And I guess kind of just as far as going forward, from the alternate's perspective, I may be not attending as often, but if you do need me or if you are short a person, I'm happy to participate. And so I guess that's kind of maybe just a reminder for other folks, other board members. If you're not able to attend, I think it's helpful to let Meredith know, so then she knows whether she needs to call upon me to attend.
Yep. And if for some reason you can't attend, you don't have to just tell me. You can actually correspond with the entire board. You should have access to all those emails from the emails that I send out to everybody. So feel free to reply to just me or to let everybody on the board know you can't make something, so that it just makes for quicker coordination. And for new members, to linking to this quicker coordination, in general, I'm a 32-hour-a-week employee. When things are normal, I only work Monday through Thursday. So the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday emails, sometimes I just don't check. So especially if it's a last minute, I can't make it, I may not get that message till Monday morning. So it is helpful to, at the very least, email myself, email Kate, email Kevin, so that we can try and get things moving if for some reason you can't attend something at the last minute. Okay. I'm just gonna go through my remote meeting procedures doc really quick. Yeah, I think, so one last little thing. And this is a kind of a funky issue, but it's something that the Vermont League of Cities and Towns has thrown out there as something, as a best practice, and it really makes sense. If for some reason Zoom's having problems, we're having problems with public not being able to get into the meeting, chances are the entire meeting we'd probably have to continue the entire meeting if there are technical difficulties. So far the city hasn't had that problem. City council has been holding Zoom meetings for a couple of months now. And I held a design review committee meeting. I don't think that's going to be an issue. But I want to throw it out there so that you know. The other thing is that right now we definitely are having, we're having our hearing on Monday. We're going to have a hearing on June 1st. I don't know what the second June hearing looks like yet. I don't have applications for that. It has been very busy for the last month, especially the last 3 weeks. We've got a lot of little applications in that aren't things that go before the development review board. But it's not the normal spring surge, but there's definitely a spring surge going on right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if the DRB is busy for the next couple of months at least. And there are a few other big projects that are bubbling out there that might come up. So be prepared to have meetings, but it might be a bubble. Everything might die back down as people who had projects all lined up and planned ahead of time get them through, and then we have a slowdown for a while as people get used to the new normal and see if opening things up by the governor works or if they have to shut back down again. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. This next meeting is going to be pretty hefty. One application in particular is pretty hefty. Same for June 1st. We're going to have one on 2 small and 1 pretty big application. So be prepared to look at these packets as soon as you can once I send them out and go through them carefully. Okay.
Hey, Meredith, in the interest of time, before you go into the remote meeting procedures document, would it be helpful to see if people have any specific questions about that document so that we can make sure to get those answered if people have reviewed it? and
so
then
you
go through it if not.
one on the website versus yeah.
The one that you sent to all of us.
Yep.
Yeah. Is that what you wanted to walk through?
Sure. I don't even know if we have
Okay.
to walk through it anymore, but I can open it up.
Okay.
I just have to find it.
Okay. As Meredith's opening that up, did people have any specific questions about those procedures, having looked through it? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. This is Roger.
Okay. And as I said earlier, I think a lot of this is that we play it by ear. But like Meredith, the design review committee was kind enough to be the guinea pig on this, so that helps us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the how do you participate in the public meetings? This is guidance is really more for the public, but it does give an idea of how we're going to try and run things. And you know, for the public, you know, just like you were going to try and have them log in early so that Mike and I can sort of vet people, figure out if we don't know ahead of time which applications they're interested in. And that way we can, you know, have sort of a queue when we get to the public comment section, have a queue of people lined up, have them talk first, and then see if there's anybody else who's attending who wants to comment on a particular application. Like we did when we were meeting in public, as much as possible, I'm going to try and get written comments from people ahead of time, so you have those in your packets, even if they are planning on attending. You know, our procedures are, we're gonna stick with the same order of things where, for individual applications, where, you know, sometimes Kate, sometimes I give the introduction to the application. It sort of depends on the application. Sometimes we split it up between us. Then the applicant makes their presentation. Then board members are going to get to ask questions, just like with the, I think, Kate, with the board members asking questions, are we going to start with hands raised at that point, or are you going to go through and pick individual members?
We'll go with hands raised. So when we get to the point where we start discussing and learning more about the application, you can just raise your hand to ask a question of the applicant about the application.
Yeah.
And I'll probably defer to you to give Meredith, to give overviews of the applications in this case. And that way it's just clean to have one person doing it. And because I've been this is my first meeting back, so I'll let you do it.
Not a problem.
Thanks.
Yeah. So hold on one second. So Mike and I will try. Now this is where, you know, he and I are trying to get into the flow of things here too. When we get to discussing matters versus a presentation on what's going on, we're going to do our best to open up the screen and stop share screen so that your screen is just filled with different people's faces and all the people attending. If for some reason, you know, we haven't done that and we don't really need to look at the application that's up, feel free to just tell me and remind me or Mike, because he and I both have the controls to be able to do that. So, you know, when we get to discussion, we're going to try and open up the screen so everybody can see everybody. Ask questions once the, you know, board members are done with their questions. Like I said before, we'll go into the public comment phase, and usually we'll try and pick people who we know are ahead of time want to talk about an application and go with them first. You know, it's going to be a little different. People are going to have to get used to not being able to just come up to the microphone and decide by themselves what order they're talking in, but we'll figure it out. You know, there can be some back and forth there. You know, let the members, the public comment. The board members can then ask them questions, or maybe go back to the applicant, try and deal with those issues. double check, make sure that the member of the public has no further follow-up, and then we're going to move on. We're going to try and control the mute as carefully as we can, make sure we don't have people just suddenly trying to talk over each other. You know, if at some point a board member has a question about a specific item, we are going to try and bring up the share screen, make sure people can see what's being talked about as much as possible, but really try to limit when people's view of who's all the different people involved is minimized, because it makes it really hard to then see when people have raised their hands and want to have something to say.
Great. Meredith, having done this with design review recently, were there any kind of lessons learned from that experience that you think we should know about?
So the stopping share screen when people want to talk, that's one of the big lessons that would have really helped. And neither Mike nor I were really on the ball with that. Luckily for design review committee, there weren't, we didn't have a lot going on. We didn't have that many members of the public attending, so it worked out okay. For design review committee, we, because it's a less formal process, the roll call vote issue didn't come up as much. But in attending that, it really feels like, for this larger group and more formal group, we need to do that, especially for the votes for applications. And then the other big lesson, I think, is the, unfortunately, muting even members when they aren't on to talk, when they aren't set to talk. Part of that is because of the background noise, but it's also just to help avoid people talking over each other. And then I think the final thing is just to make sure that we have clear who everybody is early on. And that's more of something for Mike and myself to do, is that we know who people are and we make sure to adjust their names in the Zoom call. So it's not just a phone number or something. I think that's all I have. If people come up, have questions, or suddenly think of something, they're like, oh, but wait, what about X procedure? Email me, email Kate. We can work it out. I honestly, I think this is going to go fairly well. We have, our applicants for Monday are people who are used to the DRB process. So I think that's going to help with breaking everybody into the new way of doing things. Yeah, I think that's what I've got. Anybody have any questions?
Hi, Meredith. This is Tammy. I'd just like to ask a clarifying question. Are the board members to go to the website and get the board packet, or would those be emailed to them?
So the packet they'll need to go to the website to pull the packet. The packets are going to be way too big to email as a PDF file. I will be emailing them. I'll send them an email when that packet is available on the website.
Okay. Okay, that's what confused me.
Yeah,
and
no
Kate,
worries.
I wanted to thank you for the kind words earlier.
Oh,
you're welcome. We're glad to have you.
you're muted, Kevin.
Meredith, I do have a technical question.
Yep.
The packets are multi-pages. You said 80 plus for one of the applications. And printing all of that out obviously is a waste of paper. Is it possible to toggle between the application file and then back to Zoom if we need to reference it during the discussion?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
You can minimize.
Oh, yes.
You can minimize your screen and you can toggle back and forth, and I will be able to toggle back and forth in the share screen view.
Okay.
So, and the other thing is, if you don't want to download the full packet as a single file,
Right.
You can just download the individual applications and individual staff reports as individual PDF files.
Okay.
That's possible as well.
Okay. Well, we'll we'll learn something again, but it sounds good.
Cool. RJ,
All right.
do either of you have any questions about the staff reports, just while I have you here?
I didn't really have any questions, but I was kind of assuming once I'd seen one, I might.
I think I explained them in my emails to you. I honestly have sent so many emails in the last 2 weeks that I can't remember for sure. The staff reports are going to be pretty straightforward and just go through the applicable regulations in order as they apply to the different applications. And anything in red is something where there's an unanswered question, there's missing information, or it's something that the DRB clearly has to make a decision on. So that's your cliff notes, but I highly recommend reading the entire thing because a lot of basic questions you might have about an application should be answered in that staff report.
Okay. And yes, you did send an email that outlined that, in case you're wondering.
Awesome.
The staff reports are very helpful to DRB members. This is Roger. They're really useful.
Awesome. Okay. Yes, Kate. Oh.
I just want to thank everybody for taking an hour out of the middle of their day. I know many people are working and everybody's busy in some way. So thanks for taking this chunk of time today. It's nice to see you all and get connected and do a little dry run before we get together on Monday. It should be a good conversation then, as it was today. So thanks again.
See you all on Monday.
See you on Monday. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Thank you.